All right, we're recording. Okay, well, welcome to Experience Cal State University Fullerton, Become a Titan. This is our public health advising session for those of you who may be interested in declaring public health as your major or who have already accepted public health as your major. And so before we get going, a couple of little introductions of who we are, your advisors. My name is Alicia Rivera, and I am a public health major advisor here at Cal State Fullerton. And so I am one that will be helping you out and understanding what kind of coursework to take for the major, references, referrals, information about careers. So that's what we do as advisors. And so again, my name is Alicia. You can call me by my first name. I'm okay with that. And we also have.
Hello, my name is Jackie Blylevin. I too go by my first name. You can call me that as well. One of the advisors, also full-time lecturer, a former Titan. So Alicia and I are very familiar with the campus, and we look forward to having you in our major. So welcome to Cal State Fullerton.
Great. Let me, I'm going to actually stop sharing screens for a second here. So give me a second. Okay. All right, so for today, we're going to just be covering just some general information about public health in our major. So Jackie and I are gonna, tag team the presentation today, and we're very open to questions. So we definitely want to make sure that this type of session is really here for you for any questions that you may have. And so feel free, you can always unmute yourself and ask questions, or we love the chat feature. Hopefully you guys love the chat feature as well. And so, anytime, while we're talking, the other advisor who isn't talking will be looking at the chat to answer any kind of questions that you may have, okay? So feel free, you can always ask your questions in the chat as we're going through, but we'll definitely be able to get a lot of great information to you in this advising session today. We're going to start off with just some general information about the major, about some coursework, about potential classes you might want to take in your first semester here as a Titan, and then I'll cover over that information, and then I'll hand it over to Jackie, and Jackie's going to just hit upon some, just some basics, some foundation and kind of careers in public health, maybe some careers you're interested in. So definitely we'll be giving you a lot of great information, a lot of great resources as well. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to share my screen again. And I have here our coursework document. So let me just, I'm going to move our videos out of the way here. Okay. All right. So can everyone see this coursework document? The title here says Bachelor's of Science in Public Health. We're good? Okay. I see some head nods. Excellent. Okay. So here for our major. Okay. So let me just give a little bit of insight into what we are, what our major is. And then, like I said, I'll give you some basics about coursework. And so what we are a Bachelor's of Science in Public Health. And so basically what public health is, if you want a one sentence definition, we are health promotion and disease prevention at a community level. And so we're all about going out into the community, understanding populations, working with diverse populations, understanding health behavior. Why do people make the health behavior choices that they do? And how do we change them for the better so we can have healthier communities and healthier people? We're big about prevention. But that doesn't also mean that if something does happen, we are also very reactive as well. And so with public health, we are a very broad field. And as Jackie will talk about in a little bit, she'll talk about a lot of different kind of careers that you could use public health as a foundation and then either go on for further education or go into different careers and professions. So that's what we are. We are public health. We are a Bachelor's of Science, but just to let you know, we're not like necessarily a hard science. You're not going to find chemistry or biology in our major. We're more of maybe a softer social science, more about like population, again, that health promotion, education, understanding how disease are spread and how you stop the spread of disease. So that's a little bit of the basics of what we are, who we are. And so our major, which is in the Department of Public Health, is also in our College of Health and Human Development. So pretty much any major you find in our College of Health and Human Development, we're all very people focused, and we're definitely helping professions. So anytime you ask one of our students, like, why do you want to do this? And they're like, I want to help people, and that's exactly what we are. We are there to help the public. We're helping professions. So that's a little bit about who we are. As for our major is 55 units. And so this is just the major classes. So if you're a freshman, you'll also, of course, have general education classes that you'll need to take as well. And hopefully you'll attend a session, more specific towards general education, either now during our Experience Cal State Fullerton Day, or of course in the future, when we get to our orientations in the summer. And so, so again, we are specifically major advisors for public health, and our major is 55 units. So if we scroll down here a little bit, we'll see just a little bit of insight into, where we're located. We do have an advising center, a student success center is what we call it. We are located in the Kinesiology and Health Science building in KHS 193 is where we're located. And again, oh, that's me. FYI, I totally forgot. I haven't changed my name on anything. I just got married. So I'm still getting used to the Rivera name. My what do you call it? Your maiden name? My name is Ransons. So if you see Ransons anywhere, that's me too. And then Jackie, and then we do have a part-time advisor at time, Darnie Huang. But this is a great email address that you can always reach out to us. It's PubH, which is our acronym for public health. So PubH advising@fullerton.edu. So that's a really good email address to reach out to us. So, so again, when it comes to public health advising, and again, us as your public health advising advisors, public health major advisors, you can definitely reach out to us anytime you have questions about the major or the field. Okay, so that's just a little bit about us, but of course, I'm sure you guys are chomping at the bit to know about classes. And so when it comes to public health, majoring in public health, pretty much when it comes to our major, the way that it's structured is usually we prefer it if our students, if you come in as a freshman, if you your first 3 to 4 semesters, you're really just focused on those general education classes, okay? If you're coming in as a transfer, then again, you already spent those 3 or 4 semesters at community college focusing on those general education. So no matter if you start as a freshman or you're coming in as a transfer, you're pretty much on the same path. You really get those general education done first, and then you really focus on the major classes more in your junior and senior year, with the exception of 2 classes, and that would be these here are prerequisites. So the prerequisite classes, which is Public Health 101, which is a personal health class, and Public Health 201, which is an introduction to public health class. These 2 classes can, one, be taken by any major. So even if you're not declared public health and you're here just as an advising session, then you could take one or both of these classes to get insight into our major, into our field of public health. So 1, these could be taken by any major. 2, they could be taken at any time. So you could take it as a freshman, a sophomore, a junior. And 3, you can actually take these at a community college. And so these are our lower division prerequisites. And so lower division classes can be completed at a community college. And so these 2 classes are prerequisites for the major. Now, FYI, we do call them prerequisites, but we also kind of call them soft prerequisites, because you don't have to have these done. You don't have to have them as prerequisites before you declare the major. So those of you coming as a freshman, you already declared public health and you haven't done these, not a problem. You will do these in your freshman year. If you're a transfer student and you're transferring in and you haven't done these at a community college and you're starting here as a junior and you haven't done them, not a problem. You will do them your first semester. So even though we do call them prerequisites, because they're lower division classes, they're not necessarily enforced as oh, you have to have them done before you're declared our major. So that leads us to when to take these 2 classes. As a freshman, incoming freshman to Cal State Fullerton, again, we would recommend that you actually do take these your freshman year. A lot of times we recommend 101 in your first semester, 201 in your second semester. So if you've already declared public health as your major and you've already accepted your seat here at Cal State Fullerton, then for your first semester, fall 2021, we would actually highly advise you to take this Public Health 101 in your first semester. But again, if for some reason you can't do that, if some reason you need to take it later, that is actually okay with us. That is acceptable. We do highly prefer that you take it in your first semester, but you can take it later if need be. And then, like I said, Public Health 201 for our freshmen, again, would most likely be taken your second semester. Again, if you want to do it your first semester, you can. If you need to do it later, you can also do that as well. We're very flexible. Hopefully you can tell that we're a bit flexible, in our coursework. So those are for our freshmen. For our transfer students, our incoming transfer students, if you've already done the equivalents to these and you found them on assist.org, perfect. If you have not done one or both of these and you're coming in as the transfer students and they're declared public health for fall 2021, then we do highly advise that you do take both of these in your first semester or whichever one you haven't done. And so again, these are good classes to take this first semester for our transfer students if you haven't already finished them, okay? Just one last little note, Public Health 201, which is our introduction to public health class. Basically, it's giving you a foundation as to what public health is. It's all about, understanding, the controversies of public health or how government is involved or the difference between infectious disease and chronic disease. So really giving you that kind of foundation of what public health is. At the community college level, you may or may not find it on assist.org, just because it is actually kind of a fairly new-ish class. So assist just hasn't been fully updated yet. So if you did take this class at a community college and it is titled exactly Introduction to Public Health, even if it's not in assist, we will accept it, okay? So just know that. As for 101, that's an assist. You double check assist.org, which is this website right here, to double check to make sure you're taking the equivalent to our 101 if you take it at the community college. But of course, if you're taking it here at Cal State Fullerton, you will find it labeled as Pub H 101, Pub H 201. All right, so those are the classes, again, like I said, that really our freshmen are going to take a look at and focus in their first year. Our transfer students, definitely make sure you get those done in your first semester if you haven't already. And then again, for our freshmen, you're really just going to focus on your general education, okay? So those are the prerequisites. And again, like I said, if you guys have any questions as we go, please put in the chat any kind of questions, because again, Jackie will able to answer those as we go through this information. Okay. The next section of classes here that we have for the major are our core requirements. The core requirements are requirements that every public health major will complete. So you will be responsible for completing all of these as a public health major. Now, as I mentioned, the structure of our major really, you focus on the GEs first, and then you get to your public health classes. So if you're an incoming freshman, you actually will hold off on the core classes, starting with this Public Health 320 class. You won't do that until your fourth semester, okay? So you don't hit upon these core classes until your fourth semester. So you really just focus on your GEs, your general education, and of course, these two prerequisites. And then you hold off on the core classes until your fourth semester. And that's in a little while. That's almost about 2 years. So really, we would highly advise that you just, seek us out, get some public health advising as you approach your fourth semester, and we can give you a refresher on all this information. For our transfer students, this is going to be a must take your first semester here as a transfer student, the Public Health 320 class. Our Public Health 320 class, which is Concepts in Public Health, is actually a fairly innovative class because we actually integrate advising into the class. So this class is fairly unique. There's not going to be a textbook that you're going to be reading for content. We're actually going to be really going over the advising of the major, what classes to take, what order to take them in. We go into full detail about the concentration options, which I'll go over just a little bit in a second. But really, we get into 320 and we have you develop your academic plan or your timeline, so you know exactly what classes to take from then until graduation. And we also do career advising or career exploration in this class, and then just giving you some foundational information about, public health as well, to make sure that you're prepared for the upper division 400 level classes. Because as it says right here, this public health 320 class is a prerequisite for all of our public health 400 level classes. So which is why for our transfer students specifically, this is going to be a must to take in your first semester. Again, for our freshmen, you're going to hold off on that until your fourth semester. All right, the next class we have here on the list is Public Health 349, which is our statistics class. I know a couple of you just cringed because you heard math and you're like, oh, well, it is a statistics class. It is a bit on the mathy side, but more specifically, you're going to be learning a computer program called SPSS, where you learn how to do data entry and then data analysis in order to produce statistics that are vital for our field in public health. And so that statistics class, Public Health 349, is a class that we highly recommend you do take at the same time as Public Health 320. So again, for our transfer students, we highly advise you take 349 again in your first semester. For our freshmen, again, you hold off until you take 320, which again will be in your fourth semester, okay? Now, FYI, because I see, I'm sure you guys are looking at this and you're like, oh, there's a lab. So 349, our statistics class, does have a lab, a statistics lab, but FYI, it is counterintuitive. You actually do not take them at the same time. You take the class first to learn the content in the class, use that as a prerequisite, and then you take the lab class the next semester, okay? For the lab, it's just a 1-unit credit, no credit, fully online class. So it will be an easy class to fit into your schedule the semester after you take the 349, okay? So that's kind of the basics in regards to the core classes, because as I mentioned in the 320 class, that's our advising class, you're going to get tons of advising, tons of information about the rest of the core classes, what order to take them in, everything else. But as you can just see here, we're a very broad field. We have a lot of diversity when it comes to our content. So as you can see just from here, these titles, you'll take a lot of different classes. You'll take classes about the US healthcare system. Honestly, every American should take a class about the healthcare system because, whew, that's confusing, right? Absolutely a class about diverse population. We really want to make sure that, as public health, we work with a lot of populations, a lot of diversity. We want to make sure that you're culturally competent, culturally sensitive when you're out in the field. Classes about program design, understanding how to, create a program, mission statement, objectives, interventions, evaluation. A class about environmental health. Not like hug trees and save whales environmental health, but environmental health in the sense of how does the environment affect our health as humans, as a population, as air quality, water quality, things like that. And then the very last class, as you can see here, is going to be an internship. Your internship, you take your very last semester. So that's a little ways away for you all. But with this internship, again, in that last semester is our way of kind of just nudging you to get some experience, to go out into the world and start that transition out of school and into the working environment. And so that's a great opportunity to have that built into our program. So again, like I said, these are the core classes. And again, we go into more detail in that 320 class. So this is just a snippet of advising today, just so you can kind of see what we are, what classes you have, and hopefully it gives you some insight into what classes you would take your first semester as a public health student as well. The last thing I do just want to go over just briefly, just a couple minutes before I hand it over to Jackie to talk about careers, is actually transitioning into careers, is our concentrations. So we actually have 5 different concentrations you get to choose from, which is really exciting. But you don't have to choose a concentration right now. In fact, in the 320 class, we go over more detail in our 320 class, our advising class, about each of these concentrations, and then you can actually declare and pick which one you want to go into. But just again, so you have a little bit of insight into what we are in public health and our different areas of focus, we have a general studies concentration, which is just that, general studies. It's kind of a mix and match. You get to pick whatever public health classes you want to take and kind of mix them into your concentration. So this one's very broad, very flexible, and very common. A lot of students like that flexibility, so they stay general studies. So that's our general studies. We also have environmental and occupational health and safety. Now, when I say occupational health, I don't mean occupational therapy. Occupational therapy is more about like body movement and function. Occupational health is the health of your occupation, so your work site. So this is all about the health of where you work and of course where you live, so the environment. And so if you're more interested in going into, becoming a registered environmental health specialist or a safety engineer, a food safety inspector, this is kind of a good concentration to go into, environmental health. We also have global health as a concentration. So global health may not necessarily lead to a specific career, but really it's about critical thinking. It's about thinking outside the box. It's about understanding our health in a global environment, international type of setting, okay? Our fourth concentration is a fairly new one, but an exciting one: health education and promotion. And with health education and promotion, this is kind of the bread and butter of who we are in public health, because we're all about, again, health promotion, going out to the community and educating people about health, health topics, behavior choices. And so this really gets out to the core of who we are in public health and going out into the community to educate them about different health topics. And lastly, our fifth concentration is public health nutrition. Our public health nutrition concentration is, of course, just that, nutrition. And that could really, if you're interested in becoming a nutritionist or a public health nutrition educator, this is a great concentration. Or if you want to just use this as a foundation to learn a little bit about nutrition for you personally, or if you want to use it as foundation in order to go on for further education to become a registered dietitian, you could do that as well. Now, we are not an approved registered dietitian major, but again, like I said, we could give you some foundational information in nutrition to maybe steer into that direction in the future. And again, that is our fifth concentration. So again, lots of great choices, lots of great options. And then, like I said, sorry, I'm going to scroll really fast. Sorry to scroll fast there. But again, if you were like, ooh, that all sounds exciting, I want nutrition, I want global, I want environmental, then again, we go back to general studies. Because with general studies, again, you get to mix and match and pick and choose. You could have one environmental, one nutrition, one global health class, and then put it into your general studies. And so you can really have that really cool flexibility in our major. And so again, that's just a little bit of insight here. I do actually have two other documents here, and I'm actually going to drop these in the chat so that you guys can download these if you're interested. And so this just is a little advising sheet about if you're a freshman. Again, this is just, us telling you about those classes that I was talking about, the prereqs and focusing on your GEs. And then in your second semester, sophomore year, then you focus here. And then if you are a transfer student, again, same thing. But this time, again, if you haven't done 101, 201, and then of course, these would be the must classes, the 320 and the 349. So I'll drop those into the chat box so that you guys can download these documents, okay? All right. Before I transition and hand it over to Jackie, I see no one asked any chat questions, so that's just fine. Hopefully by the time I stop talking, I answer a lot of questions, but did anyone have any questions that they would prefer to ask unmuted? I'll give you some time now if you have any questions. Okay. All right. So again, like I said, give me a few minutes and I'll drop those handouts into the chat box so you can download those. But I'll probably just hand it over to Jackie. Jackie, are you ready to talk a little bit about careers?
Yes, sorry. Always a number of distractions going on. Hello, everyone.
It's our Zoom life, right?
Hold on, let me turn off my camera really fast. Okay. Welcome to Cal State Fullerton. I know that we had, at the beginning, we had one transfer, 2 freshmen, and then we had, is it Milani, when you came in, are you a freshman or a transfer?
I'm a freshman.
Oh, awesome. Okay. Well, welcome everyone. Again, my name is Jackie Bly11. You can call me Jackie. We say that because when you get into college, since the majority of you are freshmen, you'll have faculty who are completely fine with you calling them by their first name and completely not fine with you calling them by their first name. So Alicia and I are completely fine with that. Although she will become a doctor soon, I'm not fancy. So I don't know. Will you want them to call you Dr. Rivera?
I don't know. I'll probably just call me Alicia.
Although that does sound kind of cool. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I'm going to be talking just a little bit about like the different types of careers that we see our students go into that might be interested in a field of public health. A lot of times I feel like now it's a lot easier to explain what public health is because what we're experiencing is so public health related. And there's so many different components to it, you know, the medical field, epidemiologic field, environmental health field, health education piece, nutrition. There's lots to be said when it comes to public health. So the fact that we now have 5 concentrations, each represent a large portion of public health, which is really cool. I feel like I'm so glad that our major has expanded in that sense, really allowing students to explore different opportunities. A question that we get a lot in the 320 class, because it is taught by the advisors, is what concentration should I choose if I want to go into blah, right? Well, there are certain concentrations that would be more relevant for specific careers. And as Alicia alluded to with nutrition, you know, it makes sense if you're going to go into some sort of nutrition education, or it does lay a nice foundation for becoming a registered dietitian, you know, basic foundation. You would have to go on to further educate yourself through, you know, master's level degrees or programs. And then our concentration of health education and promotion, it makes sense. If you want to go into health education, you could be, you're eligible to sit for the CHES exam which is a certified health education specialist. You know, the environmental and occupational health and safety, that makes sense if you're wanting to go into environmental health. But a lot of times students are like, well, if I want to be a doctor, if I want to be a nurse, or if I want to be a PA, or if I want to be, you know, an esthetician, or I want to be a drug counselor, what concentration would I choose? And that's kind of the nice thing is you have the ability to just choose a concentration based off of the classes that are required to complete that concentration, or you could choose general studies. And general studies, as Alicia mentioned, is very general. You can pick and choose. I call it kind of like the hometown buffet, although I don't know if they have those anymore, but where you could just kind of fill your plate with whatever you want, right? You could have vegetables, you could have meat, you could have dessert, whatever, as long as you fill the plate, right? And so with the general studies concentration, it allows you to pick and choose. And I would say that that's probably going to be our most chosen concentration, just because if students want to go into a career such as, you know, clinical health, they are able to kind of pick and choose classes that pertain to that sort of career prep, right? Because we've always said that if you're going to go into like PA, doctor, optometrist, pharmacist, any of those health professions, that the meat and potatoes come from the prerequisites for those programs. So those will be the science classes. So you're going to be picking and choosing classes from our major that would really just enhance your experience and give you additional knowledge that you could take into those programs. So with that being said, of course, you know, those health professions programs, those schools such as doctor, pharmacist, optometrist, physician assistant, DO, so osteopathic doctor. There's lots of different ways that you can get into clinical health, having a public health degree. Those are professions that we see some of our students pursue. The person or people who are going to be your experts as far as advising for those programs would be from the health professions office. So Dr. Mutapa is actually the director of the health professions office. She is one of our faculty members who, you know, sort of transitioned, but I still feel like she belongs to us, but she's transitioned into the director of health professions. She's great. She sits on a number of admissions committees for, is it for PA? I can't remember for what programs, but she's very familiar with the application process and what those programs are looking for. So if you're wanting specific advising for any of those careers, you would definitely want to set up an advising appointment. If you are a transfer student, you'll be taking our 320 class in the fall or in the summer. If you're planning on taking summer school, that is possible. And so you will receive information from Dr. Mutapa in that class. But if you wanted to set up an appointment before that, or if you're a freshman wanting to plan ahead, I would strongly suggest that you go to fullerton.edu/health professions. And then you can click on the advising tab and you can actually make an appointment. Dr. Mutapa is great. She's, like I said, she's very knowledgeable, very helpful. She's very real. And she'll make sure that you understand like the expectation and the standards that they want you to live up to, so that you're not going in like, oh, I want to be a doctor, but like you have not passed any of your science classes. She'll make sure that you understand that there's a really high level of rigor and expectation when it comes to pursuing that career. Another resource that I wanted to share with you, because we as advisors, we see a lot of our students who want to pursue, we know that yes, there's some fantastic careers in public health, but we also know that many students want to major in public health because they see that it's very, it relates a lot to these other advanced degree program careers, if that makes sense, such as those health professions for which I just provided an explanation, and then also nursing, for example. So you could have a degree in public health and go on to be a nurse, but in order to be a nurse, you have to go to nursing school. So there are various ways through which you can earn your degree in nursing. There's, if you go to nursing.fullerton.edu and you click on prospective students, which would be somebody who's majoring in public health, who's interested in nursing, then it shows you the different types of programs. So there's the entry-level freshman BSN, there's the student pathway, which would be a student who is majoring, let's say, in public health, and then they want to transfer in to the School of Nursing. You can't just change your major to nursing. You actually have to apply and be accepted. So if you are interested in becoming, going into a nursing program, either after you graduate with your degree in public health or while you are a public health student, then you would want to go to nursing.fullerton.edu, click on prospective students, and then there's this awesome link here. It's the prospective undergraduate student advising. There's a tutorial and you have to create an account, but it allows you to really, it answers a lot of your questions, and then your name is put into a queue for them to reach out to if you have any additional questions. And they're great. They're wonderful advisors. It's a great resource. If you're kind of like, well, I don't really know what I want to do. I don't want to be any of those health professions. Don't want to be a nurse. I just know public health is something that I'm interested in because I hear about it all the time, right? A great resource is Explore. I don't know why I just turned that into like 3 syllables. ExploreHealthCareers.org. Okay. This is something that Alicia and I have used as a resource for our students when we're doing career advising. Because again, we could give you a sheet of paper and say, here you go, look at all these careers that you could probably do. But I feel like this is a great resource because you could type in. So for example, let's just type something in. We're going to type into the search box and I'm going to put epidemiologist, because I don't know, it just seems kind of important these days. An epidemiologist is somebody who identifies trends of disease, where they're located, what's causing them, why are they occurring, and really tries to answer those who, why, when, what, and where questions. And we actually, I have an epidemiologist who lives across the street from me, and he's really cool, and he graduated from Cal State Fullerton, so he has a lot of information to share. So I would click on epidemiology, and it gives me kind of a snapshot of what they do, how much they could make potentially. To my knowledge, this is based off of, this is nationwide, so it's not according to California. So that's why that range is so high, but it really goes into detail about what they do, working conditions, academic requirements, resources. So the reason why I'm sharing this with you is because you can type almost any sort of health career into that search engine, on explorehealthcareers.org, and it will give you this sort of output that you could look at and further explore. Okay, does it require grad school? If so, what do I have to do? What sort of programs should I apply to? Another great resource that I always share with students is the BLS.gov. It's the Bureau of Labor Statistics, because I feel sometimes their information is a little bit more specific than the or the Explore Health Careers. Again, just an additional resource. So the BLS.gov and explorehealthcareers.org, and both are very helpful resources for students if you're wanting to explore careers. But personally, my background is in health education. Worked in health education for about 6.5 years, doing health education and promotion on our college campus. And I loved it. It was great. I personally was ready to transition into teaching and advising. And I haven't looked back since. And so with the public health degree, and I know Alicia and I both have similar backgrounds when it comes to our work experience, have our master's in public health. And is a master's in public health required to work in public health? I wouldn't say that it's required, but I would say it's definitely going to be valued, preferred. Having some sort of acronym after your name when it comes to this field is going to be important, because it just shows that you've definitely, gone in and shown that you're competent in certain levels of public health. So, and that will make you more competitive when it comes to applying for jobs. I know, for those of you who are coming in as freshmen, you're like, why are you talking about competitive applying for jobs? I'm just going to start my degree. The time goes by really fast when you are in college. And we always talk about the importance of really building your resume, trying the best to enhance your soft skills and those skills that obviously very important, but the soft skills are just as important, like the interpersonal communication, the teamwork, the time management, the leadership. Those are things that you're not necessarily taught, but you are going to be building just by kind of starting to get your feet wet as early as your freshman year, because you really want to build your resume so that you can be more competitive. But so there's lots of different careers that you can look into. You could even just kind of you could go into Career Explorer on here and just do a career search, and then it pops up so many different things that you could just kind of look at to see what sort of careers can I get into. And these are just like examples. There's even more beyond, because it doesn't even have nursing listed here. There's more careers that you can go into. So Alicia and I are here for advising. We'll probably end up being one of your 320 instructors, either in the fall or spring or next year, whenever you take it. But that's all that I have.
Great. All right. And I had a couple questions, that was direct message to me. So I was able to answer those as we went. And I also, in the chat box, anytime Jackie referred to something, I put the website in the chat box. So hopefully you guys have been accessing it that way as well. And of course, I put those files in there as well. So, so pretty much, we do have a few minutes left. And we just wanted to open it up just in case any of you had any questions. Maybe it was something where you're like, oh, I thought they were going to cover this in their advising session. So now I would really like to know if you guys have any other questions for us. Feel free to unmute yourself or type in the chat again. No? All right. Well, then, since we do have 2 minutes left, Jackie and I have to use all of our time. We do want to just mention one last thing. Obviously, we provided a lot of information about, hopefully you got information about what classes to take for our major, when to take those. But don't forget, this is, just a kind of snippet. This is a experience CSUF, become a Titan. Don't forget, we're also going to have orientation in the summer. So we're going to have freshman orientations. We're going to have transfer student orientation. So we're going to be able to give you even more information, more insight, more details. This is just kind of a snippet, little welcome type of thing. so that you can kind of, at least, get to know us a little bit. Usually we're in person and we'll get there. And talking about in person, we just wanted to mention that for next semester, for fall 2021, if everything goes as planned, let's all keep our fingers crossed, we are going to be back on campus. And so at least partially. And so Jackie and myself, we will actually have advising hours on campus. We do an appointment system, so you can make an appointment with us if you want to come to campus, but we also will continue this virtual platform as well. And so we do advising virtually through Zoom. We do phone call advising appointments. We do drop-in advising. And so anytime you guys have questions about public health, you can absolutely make an appointment through our public health website, through Cal State Fullerton's website. And we can answer any kind of questions you have. I also showed you our email address, which is again pubhadvising@fullerton.edu. But other than that, like I said, we'll be back on campus in the fall. FYI, and again, you'll probably get this during the orientation, but if you were looking at the fall schedule and you were just like, oh, well, I want to know which classes are on campus and which classes are still virtual, really the indicator is if there's a room location. So if you're looking at your class search and you see that there's a physical room for your class, it says like, humanities 123, the humanities building, then that means that it's on campus and it's going to be in person. We're still going to be taking safety precautions while we're on campus for the fall semester, encouraging everyone to get their vaccine. We're still going to be wearing face masks, we're told, social distancing. So again, we're going to make it our environment a safe one. That's obviously our priority, is to make sure that our classes and our environment on campus is a safe one for our student and for our faculty, of course. So that's kind of a little bit of a last minute advising from me. Jackie, did you have any last words of wisdoms or insights you want to share?
No, that's actually all that I wanted to say, but thank you so much for coming in. I know that it's a little different when it's on Zoom, so it's very easy to just be like, I'm not going to show up. So thanks for coming. I hope that we answered any questions that you might have had. We're on here until the next one starts, so we might stick on for a couple more minutes if you wanted to talk privately, but otherwise, welcome to Cal State Fullerton. We're excited to meet you.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Welcome. And excited to meet you all virtually. And hopefully next semester, we'll be on campus and you can meet us in person. But again, like Jackie mentioned, us as the advisors, we teach the 320 class. So at some point you're going to have us in a class. So, all right. Well, that's it for us today. I'm going to go ahead and stop recording.